Wonderful. So, a huge welcome to everyone who has joined us tonight. I am so excited to have Leeanne Manariti join us as our special guest speaker. As most of you know, this training is on creating a bright future. It's all about you and the future that you want for yourself, for your family, for your business, for, I guess, for many of us, it's the feeling of a job satisfaction and the feeling that we have the ability to set our own hours, be our own boss, work the hours that we want to. And there's a great side of that, of being your own boss. And there's another side of being your own boss. So one of the questions is, what sort of boss are you to you? So we might have some great ideas from, not that that's Leanne's topic tonight, from Leanne tonight. And I did ask Leanne, what is something that really is one word to describe how she feels about Nutrimetics? And her word is freedom. And I have to say, we've had Lucia Cardamone on, her word was freedom. We've had so many people on. I think even Sonia's word might have been freedom as well when Sonia spoke for us recently. So the freedom, and Leanne might mention that a little bit more, but I know she has mentioned to me about her systems. And she is going to go through 5 key strategy systems, whatever you want to call it. And I'm very excited to hear about that. And I'm very excited to hear Leanne's story. So I would love to introduce beautiful sales director in the gorgeous team of Lee Aarons, who lives on the south coast of New South Wales. Welcome, Leanne. Over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to pin myself because that was my instructions from Adam
Oh, we
for
have to take Adam's instructions.
from recording. So, welcome everyone, and thank you. Thank you for asking. It's always a pleasure to be asked to speak about your journey with Nutrimetics, and I have been in Nutrimetics now for around 34 years. So I guess I'll start with my story and who I am and where I've come from. So I'm actually the youngest child of 8, a family of 8. There are 6 girls and 2 boys in my family, and I'm the youngest. So I guess a lot of my upbringing from being a young girl in such a large family was a very family orientated background and upbringing, but also I was a really an observant kid. I observed a lot of what my brothers and sisters did. I also learnt from them, the good and the bad, as well. But I now, as an adult, realize that a lot of times when I was young and I was listening, that was sort of something that I was good at, was to listen and then decide whether or not I can Leanneify it. Okay. So quite often someone would do something and I think that would be exciting. But then it was like, well, can I do that? And if I couldn't do it exactly like them, is there a way I could do it? So often that's how have ran my life without actually really realizing that until I got to Nutrimetics. So as I said, the youngest of 8, both my parents were, well, my dad was a shift worker. Didn't see a lot of my dad during the day because he worked at night. He worked for a brand which everybody would know, Tip Top Bakeries. He left school, started working for them, and retired with them. So that was the only job he ever had. My mum was a stay-home mum. So I learnt a lot from both my parents, the stay-home maternal type situation, and then the work ethic from my dad as well. So I went to school, went to high school, and when I was in year 10, I was not sure what I wanted to do. And I was very lucky that my class was chosen for a new thing that the government was putting into place called work experience. So here we're talking about the 70s back here. Okay, so for some of you probably on here haven't weren't even born in the 70s. So, but work experience was where you could actually go and work somewhere for a specific amount of time and learn about the job. So we were asked to write down three places that we would like, or three careers that we think we might like to work in. My first point was I want to be a bank teller. The second one was a school teacher, and the third one was a hairdresser. So my teacher came to me and he said, unfortunately, the first two, we're unable to get you any work experience, but I can get you work experience in a hairdressing salon. Would you like to do that? And I jumped at it and said, of course I would. So off I went for 2 weeks working in a salon. The gentleman I worked for, he was quite ahead of his time. He had 4 salons. I worked in one salon. I worked there for quite a few days, and then he came to visit to see how I was going and said to me, "You need to come to my busiest salon," which was in Moonee Ponds in Melbourne. So off I went as a work experience to there, and I kind of worked under him and a few of the other people that were working there as work experience, and he eventually offered me an apprenticeship. And I accepted. So I left school and started the apprenticeship in 1978. I stayed with this guy for 7 years. So that was quite unheard of. You usually did your apprenticeship and then you took off. But this gentleman that I worked for, I could see something from him. And again, I think this is where my looking and learning came into it. He was the worst hairdresser I had ever seen. However, he was a really good businessman. And I learnt a lot from him on what to do in business and how he ran his business. Because he was not a good hairdresser, he was very clever and he surrounded himself with people who could do better things than him. And what he did was he nurtured those people and made sure they stayed, and he got them to work. And they did that work for him and made him a lot of money. So I stayed there for 7 years and learnt quite a lot. Didn't quite like the guy, didn't like a lot of things he did, but as I said, I could see that there was potential that I could stay and learn. In this time of there, I was there with about 7 years with him. I met my to-be husband at the time. I spoke to my husband then and said we were just going out. I would like to have my own salon one day. And he said, well, maybe you should. So off we went, kept going. We were still in a relationship. And then eventually we spoke about marriage. And I said, you know what? I really want to have a salon. So we put the marriage thing on hold and I left my boss. He was devastated. I took all my clients with me and I opened up my own salon. I found a salon that was very run down. It had good bones, but I knew I had my clients to come with me. And so I just did a little bit of cosmetic work and got down to doing some really hard yards. So for about 7 years, I worked in that business pretty much full time, 7 days a week. And in that time, I did get married. I did have a child, but I forgot to tell you, when I was an apprentice, I had really bad skin. Well, I didn't have bad skin, but what happened was he had a salon where I was working that had a beautician and a nail technician. So it was a one-stop shop in the 80s, which was not heard of. And we were forced to have facials with our beautician, and my face would just burn up. I have scarring around here and around my mouth area from this machine thing that she had years ago, attacking my skin, and it was horrific. And I searched far and wide to see what skincare would be better for my skin, and I never found anything. It was very hard. I would carry a face washer with me all the time, and I would, at my lunch break, go down to the toilets, wash my face with a face washer to get my makeup off because my face would just be burning. We were told we had to wear makeup. We were told we had to wear stilettos. Like, if you wanted to keep your job, he told us how to dress and how to look. And we just did that. But basically, yes. And on the way home, I would get my face washer again and wash my face. So skincare kind of creeped into my world a little bit while I was in the hairdressing years. And when I got my own salon, there was a girlfriend of mine who invited me or kept inviting me to these parties, and I just kept saying, no, I'm too busy, which I was working. But I went to work. I bought my salon, and my husband and I knew we were going to get married. We were going to have children, and I said to him, "I have a goal, and my goal is to have a house, but have my mortgage paid before the age of 30." And he was quite happy about that as well. And so I said, "This salon will get us that, and we will have no mortgage by the time I'm 30." And he would have been like in his early 30s as well. So that was my goal. It was to go to work, and that's what got me out of bed every day to work 50 odd hours a week, was because I had a goal, and it was a fiery goal. And it was a goal that I needed to get me going and keep me on track. And of course, there were times where, things did go wrong. You have staff. Well, anybody who's had a retail business and has staff, they come, they go. But I was very lucky that I actually took a little bit of a thing out of my ex-boss's hat, and I found people who were better at me at certain things in hairdressing and looked after them, and they stayed, and my salon became quite successful, not only because of me, but because of the staff members that I had as well. So, as I said, I did get pregnant, had a baby, had my daughter, and I was going to be the best businesswoman you could ever see. I was going to have it all, be a mum, have a business, be successful, everything. Now, my husband and I, before children, we were very keen beach lovers. We were keen scuba divers. We had a big, like a scuba diving boat. We had the big V8 car. And we realized that if I was going to have kids, that lifestyle was going to change. So we sold the boat, we sold the car, we changed our lifestyle. And then I realized being a mum and working 50 something hours a week just didn't cut it. So I looked at my mum and said to her, "I want to do what you did. I want to be home for my kids." I enjoyed coming home from school and seeing my mum there. I enjoyed the fact that my mum would come and work in the canteen, and I would go there and see my mum at school. And so I really decided that that's what I wanted. So I worked, and I actually built that salon up, that I was able to sell that business and triple my money that I invested originally 7 years prior. And that actually helped us to pay off our mortgage. So that was my goal. I achieved my goal, and I was quite proud of myself to do that. But then there was a little bit of a nasty note to it, because I walked into the bank and I had a check from selling my business, and I said to the teller, "I want to bank this check into my bank account, please. And then I want a payout figure to pay off my mortgage." And this girl looked at me and said, "I don't think I understand what you're saying." And I tried to tell her again, and she said, "Oh, I need to get the manager." Now, this was back in the 80s. And so most bank managers, as you would probably know, were kind of the age of my dad. And he looked at me. I'm I'm younger than 30. It was about 28, 29. And he said, "You need to come into my office." And so I walked into his office, and he said, "What are you trying to do?" And I said, "Well, I've just sold a business. I want to pay off my mortgage. I have enough money in my bank account to do that. So I need to know how much I owe you." And he said to me, "Where's your husband?" And I said, "My husband's at work, and my daughter is at home, and I'm having someone look after her. I'm here to do this." So I had to fight to pay off my mortgage because my husband wasn't there. And this gentleman really did not want to speak to me. So again, observing, I realized, you know what? I was quite disheartened that somebody was sitting there and basically wiping out the work and the hard work and the goals and everything that I had sacrificed to do to be there at what should have been a really happy, successful time for me. He made it quite clear that, this was not going to happen without your husband. So, anyway, long story short, it happened. I paid off my house. I stayed home. I had a plan to stay home with my children for 5 years. I wanted my kids to be at school before I decided to do anything. Because I wasn't working, my girlfriend kept saying, "Do you want to come to one of these Nutrimetics things that I'm having?" So eventually I said, "Okay, all right, I'll go." Off I went. I said, "But I'm not buying anything because I have really bad memories of skincare and I've, just got my skin where I want it, so I'm not sure." Anyway, I went to this, what they used to call a Nutrimetics show. So off I went to the Nutrimetics show, and this woman was talking about skincare, and I said, "Great, but I have really sensitive skin. I break out, I this and that." And she handed me a whole set of skincare. In those days, it was called Inakari. So for those of you who've been around for a while, a whole set of Inakari. And she said, "You take this home and you use it for a week. And if you like it, I will come back in a week. And if you like it, you can pay me for it. But if you don't like it, I'll take it back." Now, that was unheard of. The amount of money that I had wasted over the years trying to find products that would suit my skin and work with my skin, there was a lot of money wasted and a lot of time wasted. And remember, this is before the internet, okay? You had to go to a library and look up a book if you wanted to do any research in those days. So basically, I said, "Okay, I'll take it home." It sat there for a day or two before I was even like willing, because I know the reaction that can happen. But I did it, I used it, and my skin was just like, wow, amazing. So I kept using it, and she came back and she said, "You obviously like it." And I said, "Of course I do. Here's your money. Thank you very much." And off she went. So I started using the product, and like most people these days, I couldn't find anyone to repurchase. And so I kept saying to my girlfriend, "Are you having another party, another show?" And she's like, "Oh, no, I'm not. So and so is." So I always got invited because they knew I was going to buy the product. I think I went to three. Nobody asked me to book, and nobody asked me to join. And I just kept buying the product. I knew nothing. There was this little kit that kept sitting on the table in an orange box, and I kept looking at it, but it was skincare, it was makeup, and it was sort of, yeah, not really interested. And by this time, I was pregnant again, and I had my son, and having two children at home, I was starting to go a little bit stir crazy. And I did miss the adult conversations. I was a little bit over Play School and Sesame Street. And I thought, you know what? I really, apart from, I don't want to go back to work, but I kind of miss my money. I kind of miss my me money. And so I was looking at what I could do to maybe stay home still with my kids and have that goal for that 5 years to stay home with them, but maybe make a little bit of extra money that, took the edge off just living off that one wage. Anyway, I was using the product. My neighbor, I borrowed something from her. I took it back to her, and sitting on her kitchen bench was a product called Apricot Body Dew. And I seen the Nutrimetics on there and went, "Oh my God, Nutrimetics. How do you use it? I use it. How do you get it? I need that. I need to buy some more product." And she said, "Oh, I sell it." Now, my neighbor had been my neighbor for I don't know how long. I didn't even know she sold Nutrimetics. She didn't tell me. So there's a theme here. And so eventually I said to her, "Well, I would like to buy blah, blah, blah." She talked me into having a little get together, and I said, "Yep, let's do a makeup one. My sister's interested in makeup. Let's do that." So my sister was the model, and she was telling my sister about how she earns money by doing Nutrimetics. Now I'm the host. It's in my house, and she's telling my sister about Nutrimetics and how to join Nutrimetics and make some money. So the party finished. I got the delivery. I went over to pick the delivery up, and I said to her name was Trisha. I said, "Trisha, can you please tell me what were you telling my sister about how to make some money with Nutrimetics?" And she said, "Oh, well, you've got to buy this kit, and it costs X amount of dollars," which was a lot of money. It was $199. And then she said to me, "You need to, if you want to make money out of Nutrimetics, you have to go to this training." And if you don't, you won't make any money. And I said, oh, okay, well, what is this training? And so she told me it was an hour away from me. It was in an evening on a Monday night. And she said, if you don't go, you won't make any money. So I said, okay, I'll go. Are you going to go as well? She said, oh, no, I'm not going. She said, you just go by yourself. So off I went to this stranger's house an hour away. And the lady who opened the door, her name was Jo White, and that woman changed my life. She welcomed me, and Trisha had rang her and said I was coming. She welcomed me. She made me feel so at ease. I stayed. I watched the training again, observing, and I was like, wow, okay, I don't know what I'm getting myself into here, but it seems okay. She rang me the next day and asked to meet up for a coffee. I did that. And she said to me, you want to make some money in Nutrimetics? I said, yes, I do. If I can, I just don't know how it works. And she said, well, how much money do you want? And I told her I wanted an extra $100 a week. And she said to me, why? Why do you need $100? And I said, well, that's going to give me some me money. It's going to help me pay for petrol. It's going to help me pay for kids' swimming lessons. It's also going to give me a night off on a Friday night to buy pizza so I don't have to cook. And that's a good motivator for me. So she sat me down and she showed me a formula, which I'm going to share with you guys in a moment. She showed me a formula and she said, you follow this formula, you will make that $100. So she told me exactly what I needed to do. And she said, then it was up to me to make it work. This is a formula that does work. You need to work the formula. So that's how I joined Nutrimetics. The rest is kind of history, I guess you could say. Um, but what I did was I looked at Nutrimetics probably a little bit different to some people in that because I'd come from a beauty salon, I'd come from a bricks and mortar, a retail. When I had my retail shop, I would have sales reps come in and they would try and sell me their products. I would ask a lot of questions about the product and how does it work? Why does it work? You say that it does this. So I was very inquisitive for that. I looked at Nutrimetics as my sales rep. So they were a company with a product that I could bring into my business or to my ability to earn some money. And so that's kind of where I've always looked at Nutrimetics as not a company. It is a company, but for me, it was like them, like my sales rep. They're the company that I've chosen to run my business for me to make an income. And I will do what I need to do and follow the system to make that income. So my upline was my savior. I think if I don't know, maybe if it was somebody else, I'm still maybe here. But Jo was very good at showing me the whole big picture. And remember, I've been to quite a few parties and shows, and nobody showed me that. Nobody asked me to book, and nobody asked me to join. So please take note of that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now because I'm going to share with you some of my slides that I've got. So here I am with Nutrimetics. We've done my story. Okay, you might say I was quite a motivated person, but one thing I have learned, there are some truth bombs you need to know about motivation. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. You don't get motivated and then do something. I have heard that so many times over the 30 odd years is, when I get motivated, I'll find this, or when I get motivated, I'll do that. Do some action and that will motivate you. And discipline. Discipline beats motivation every time. Okay, so you need to have systems, you need to know what you're doing, and you need to be disciplined about it. You need to be doing it regularly. Small wins create big momentum. And Joe, my upline, told me many years ago, little piddles make big puddles. So do little things, it will lead to big things. Do lots of little things, it moves to big things. So you won't always feel like doing it, but you know what? Do it anyway and see what happens. But progress, not perfection, keeps motivation alive. I have heard again so many people say, when I learn about the product, when I know how this works, when I know and when I can do it properly, okay, progress beats perfection all the time. And it will keep you motivated. As long as you're progressing, think about it. Every time something happens, you get closer to something, it gets you motivated. Okay, so don't be disillusioned that motivation is something that you have to wait for before you move. Start moving, and the motivation, the discipline, the wins, everything starts to happen. This is a simple business, but sometimes it's just not easy. So, the number of people you get in front of is the key. So, the number of people you get in front of will influence your sales, your sponsoring, your development of others and yourself, which ultimately impacts your freedom money. I will talk about freedom money in a minute because for me, it's freedom money, not income. Now, did you know behind every person there is 100 people you don't know? So when I moved here from Victoria, so I was in Victoria when I started Nutrimetics. I was almost a manager. My husband had a midlife crisis and we moved to Batemans Bay. So I had to start again. I knew two people when I moved to the south coast of Batemans Bay. I knew two people, one was a male, one was a female, and I thought, you know what? I've got a 50% chance this is going to work. So off I went and got my girlfriend to get some girlfriends together and just kept going. So when people say to me, I have no friends and I don't know anyone, it doesn't sit with me because I have been there where I've moved to a place where I knew no one apart from my girlfriend and her husband. These days, not having friends or not knowing anyone, we all have a phone, we all have Facebook, we all have Instagram. We always know one person. And behind that one person, there is another 100 people that you don't know, and you need to get to know them. So it can only take sometimes one person to turn your sales, your opportunity, your business around. So I'm going to talk to you about freedom money. Now, Nutrimetics offers commission, okay? But you know what? Let's have a look at freedom. So for me, the income gave me the freedom to pay off my mortgage. So with Nutrimetics, it gave me $100 a week, was going to give me the freedom to not cook on a Friday night and have pizza, okay? So what's your freedom number? If I gave you $125 right now, what would it free you up to do? Go out for dinner? Service your car? Put it away for a holiday? So going to work to pay the bills is necessary, but doing something to give you some freedom is quite motivating and makes you want to take some action. So basically, you need to look at the percentages. And we had a CEO many years ago, and he used to say, why do you take 20% when I'm offering 45? Why do you leave money on my table? You need to put the money on your table and feed your family. So freedom for me is all about the income that gives me the freedom to do things. And also Nutrimetics has given me the freedom to travel. It's given me the freedom to have company cars. And for me, that's something that I value, is to have the freedom. I'm not very good at working for other people. I tried it a couple of times in between things and I wasn't very good at it. So I decided that I just need to look after myself and work for myself and just be happy with that as well. Let's talk about selling, okay? Because, you know, to get those sales, to get that income, you have to sell a product. You have to sell lots of product. And I have people that say to me, I don't sell. I don't like selling. I'm not a salesperson. I don't want to be pushy. Well, then don't. Don't sell, just tell. Tell people about our products. Tell people how our beautiful cleansers clean your skin without disturbing the natural oils. Tell people about our amazing tight, firm, and fill and how their face is going to look, you know, absolutely amazing within 30 minutes. Tell the story of the product. You don't have to sell it. Tell the story. So if sales is a blocker for you, if selling is something that you're scared of or not confident in, start telling stories. And if you're selling on social media is all about stories. So don't sell, just tell. So whenever I do anything, these are my key steps. Okay. And so basically what I do is the first one is my why. So in my story, I've told you I've had a few whys along the way, and it's all about what do you want? Don't look at Nutrimetics. If I just said to you, what do you want? I'm sure you could write something down. I want to go on a holiday in 12 months, or I want to pay extra off my mortgage. There's always something that you want. And some people might call it a goal. Some people aren't happy with that word. Okay, but what is it you want? Because whatever you want, that is your why. But then have a look, is Nutrimetics the vehicle to get this? For me, it was. I looked at Nutrimetics and went, you know what? I can do this. I can do what that system that she taught me and make my $100 a week. I can do that. So Nutrimetics was a vehicle for me. My hairdressing salon was a vehicle for me to have my mortgage paid off. So there's always been, I want, and where can I get it from? You may have a job where you may have to work extra hours. It's really defining as to what it is or why you want it. And then it's the how. So for me, Nutrimetics was it. I sat down with my sales director and she showed me how. Back then it was shows. That was it. Shows and facials. And that was getting in front of people. So that was a decision that I made. And then it was a case of, okay, well, what do I need to do that? Because you always need tools of some sort. And if you're selling on social media, you still need tools for that. You need to know how social media works. You need a computer, you need your phone, whatever it is, you need a tablet. Okay, so you always need some tools and you also need systems. And I'm going to share some systems in a minute. But then you need to put a date on it and start doing some action. And as I said before, if you're scared, do it scared. Okay, just do it. So work out your why. And can I say to you, your why has to be really strong. It has to get you out of bed. It has to get you excited. It has to give you that little butterflies in your tummy. And if your why is keeping you awake at night, great. Okay, because you're working towards it all the time. So why? Find the vehicle. How am I going to do it? What tools do I need? And when do I need to do and get some action started? These are the 5 key steps that I do every time I have something that comes up. So even in Nutrimetics, when I've made a decision to go to another level, I've done this. Why do I want to go to that level? Is Nutrimetics the right vehicle for that? I needed a new car. And I said to my husband, okay, I need a new car. There's 2 options. One, I go to the bank and get a loan. I don't have a job, so I have to go get a job. Then I can go to the bank and get a loan. Or I can work in my Nutrimetics business a little bit more extra per week for the next 4 or 5 months, and I can have a brand new car from Nutrimetics. What shall I do? And he said, I don't care. You always do what you want to do, so whatever. So I took the Nutrimetics way. So that's what I did. I chose to get a car from Nutrimetics. And every time I drove my little red Lancer, I used to pull the the visor down, and I had a picture on there of the Ford Fiesta that I was going to be earning. So every time I was driving, I would pull the visor down and pretend I was driving that white little Ford Fiesta. So every time I went somewhere, I knew that was the reason why I was going to do that demonstration. I was going to do that facial. I was going to the shops to drop brochures off. It was constantly there and have in my face. All right, so how do we do all this? You're probably thinking, oh my goodness, this is a lot. Okay, I hope I haven't overwhelmed you all. I haven't noticed anything in the chat, so I'm sorry, maybe I'm speaking too quick, but I'm sure if there might be questions as we go. please pop them in the chat. If not, I'll take some questions if you have them afterwards. You need to get organized, okay? You need to look at your week. So when someone says to me, I want to make X amount of dollars, the first thing we say is, okay, how much time have you got? What do you do? What do you do with your life? Let's put your life in first and let's have a look. You need to look for 3 gaps, okay? If I can find 3 gaps in your week, we can do this. We can make it happen, okay? I can support you and show you and help you along the way how to do this. Now, I will say to you, that if you can get to a sweet spot of 15 hours a week, now that's not saying you have to do that right now, but if you can build your Nutrimetics to a minimum of 15 hours a week, you will be doing amazing things. Okay, 15 hours a week is the sweet spot. So have a look at where you do what you do, get a calendar like this, color code it. I've just put some colors in here, but pretty much this is what I did when I was out being a consultant. Mondays was my office time. We had training every Monday night. Was not allowed to miss training on a Monday night. And if any of you have your uplines offering you training, you get there face to face or online. Okay, you need to be there. And when things aren't going real well, you need to be there. And when things are going really well, you still need to be there because you need to share with everybody else who may be not doing so well, share with them what you're doing and, be a part of that team to help everybody have a win-win situation. So I used to do workshops Friday nights and Saturdays and sometimes on a Thursday night. So if I was out in the supermarket and, bumped into someone and they were sort of, talking about Nutrimetics, I'd say, sure, I'd love to come round, show you and your girlfriends how all this skincare or makeup works. Would a daytime or an evening suit you best? If she said an evening, I would say, no problem. I work Thursdays and Friday nights. Does any of those nights suit you? So I fit Nutrimetics into my life and I work it when I have that time booked in. If they wanted a daytime, I'd say, well, I can do Saturdays, or if you want during the week, I have to look at my diary. I've had people ask me if to do Sundays. Back then it was family day, but I would say to them, if you want me to work on a family day on a Sunday, I will do it, but you have to have a minimum of 8 people in attendance. So, I was in control of that because if I was, Sunday's my family day. You want me to take away from my family, you're going to have to make it worth my while. So please get organized with your time. When you know why we do what we do, everything falls into place. But when you don't, you have to push. You have to push things into place. And that becomes very tiring. Okay, so really spend some time on your why because then everything will fall into place. And if you do a why and it's not happening and it's starting to feel like a push, go back and look at your why. It's very important. So here's a little bit of a scenario I've done with my team. Now, Nutrimetics always puts on free shipping occasionally, and what do? They do $75 minimum order. So I decided, okay, if they think that a minimum order is $75, I'm going to do some sums on this and I'm going to come up with a system as I do. So average order, $75. How many people do you need to reach your freedom money? So here we go. If you said to me, I want to make $125 a month from Nutrimetics, then I'd say to you, you need to have at least 7 people ordering a minimum of $75. Now, most people spend more than $75. Okay. So if you had people spending $200, well, you only need, you don't need 7. Okay. So you can see the math here. So I've gone the minimum, but you can quickly do the math here to, go, well, you know what, my average sale is $200 or my average sale is $100. You can work this out. Divide that $1,000 by whatever it is. That's how many customers need to be placing orders. These aren't customers you've got to talk to or anything like that. These are customers you need to be placing orders with you. Okay? So to do a maximum of $4,000 minimum sales at 45%, which gives you $1,800. If you did that for 6 months, how much money would you have? What would it do to your life? What freedom would it give you in your life to do? So on a $75 order, 54 people, 54 customers need to be placing an order to get $4,000 in sales. Okay. But obviously, if you're selling more, we're all selling platinum sets, which is around $300. That's a lot less than 54 people. Where do you find 54 people? So I spoke to you earlier about when I sat down with my upline, Jo, and I told her I wanted to earn some money in Nutrimetics. This is the formula. I've used this formula for 30 odd years. She said it's 3 by 3 by 4. That's it. You follow that formula every month, okay? And she said you will make your money, guaranteed. You don't follow the formula, you won't make your money. So basically what the 3 is, you need to have 3 income generating or income driven activities every week. Now that could be 3 facials. It could be 3 get-togethers, 3 masterclasses, 3 demonstrations of the product. Whatever it is, 3 times a week, I would make sure I was doing something that was driven to create an activity for income. Quite often we think about what we're going to do, but we don't do it. And she said to me, at every one of those activities, you need to have a minimum of $300 sales. Now, $300 in sales, that's 1 platinum set. So you could speak to 3 people, sell them 3 sets of platinum, and you've nearly hit $1,000 in that week in sales. Remember what I said? This is a simple business, but sometimes we don't make it easy. We overthink things. And the 4 stands for doing it every week. So 3 by 3 every week. And what are those activities that you can do to become an income-driven activity? It's face-to-face. It's talking to people. It's telling the stories about the product. It's doing workshops. It's doing masterclasses. It's doing social media. It's activities. You actually got to do something. And you've got to be consistent. So consistency is the key to making your freedom money, to give you the freedom to do whatever it is that you're looking for. Leave your job. You need to replace your income, whatever it is. So do the basics really well and do them every week. And the basics are simply just what I was just saying, 3 by 3 by 4. So use your time to do the basics. Have a look. How many hours do I need in the week for conversations? How many hours in the weeks do I need to go out and do the bookings and be in front of people? How many hours a week do I need to put towards selling and telling people about the product? And what if you've got a team? If anybody on here has sponsored and they've got a team and they're building a team. As I said before, 15 hours minimum is a sweet spot. Some of you may only be doing 2 or 3 hours a week, and that is amazing. You can build it. You can find more time once the motivation kicks in from your actions. And as I said before, little piddles start to make big puddles. You'll start to get excited. So set the time to do this. Protect your time that you've set aside to do this, but then also reflect on your time. So what I mean by that is you're going to set that time aside every week. Protect it, meaning if someone says to you on Friday night when you've got, time set aside and they say, do you want to come to the, come for a drink or whatever, you have to say no. I've got to do this and then I can do it. And then reflecting on the time is actually having a look. Okay, so did I do conversations? Did I do some bookings? What sales did I get? Who did I talk to? So reflect on what you've done, the basics. Then this is the basics. Without this, we kind of don't, well, for me, without this, I wouldn't have made my $100 a week. So please go for everything that the company puts in front of you. Okay, that's, thank you gifts. It's bonus gifts. It's Starbucks. It's the car. It's the trips. Go for everything that the company is offering because when you go for it, okay, and you get it, wow. Okay, the dopamine hit you get. But you know what? Sometimes when we're going for something and we miss, you've actually grown. You've actually gotten further than where you were probably last month. Faces equal freedom money. You have to talk to people. You have to have faces to put makeup on. You have to have faces to put skincare on. Okay, without faces, it doesn't happen. Sponsoring gives you a career path. If you're looking for another career, then sponsoring is what Nutrimetics can offer you. You need to have a look and become a master at sponsoring if you want to have a career with Nutrimetics. It doesn't just happen. You need to have a look at what sponsoring is and make sure that you're comfortable with that. It's not just about getting them started when you're sponsoring. It's not about just getting them started and placing that first order. It's about supporting them ongoing and having growth and activity for them. It's all about you doing, you teaching. So let me show you what I do to make X amount of dollars my way. And then you can go and do X amount of dollars your way. Our system works. We need to work the system. I can't get hungry for you. You have to have the hunger. I can support, but I can't get hungry for you. And the motivation comes from you. The motivation is your action. Start doing some things and you will get motivated. And this is something that a lady called Belinda Thompson told me in a Canberra meeting one time. And I can't remember what we were talking about. And I made a comment and she threw this in my face and she said, Leanne, whatever you tell yourself, you're right. And I've never forgotten it. And every time I see Belinda, and sometimes I see her when we go to the Gold Coast and that, I remember. I remember what she said. She said, whatever you tell yourself, if you tell yourself you can't do this, you're right. If you tell yourself you can't sell $4,000 every month, you're right. If you say, I can't sponsor, I can't sell, you're right. You need to be very careful how you speak to yourself and what you're thinking. Because if your why is strong enough, you need to believe that you can do it and you need to tell yourself you can do it. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so I hope that's helped. What's the time? Okay, I don't think I've gone over time, Louise. I haven't seen the chat. I'm so sorry. I will have a look. Everyone's saying hi. Love it. Thanks, Adam. Sonia, thank you. Thank you. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat or whatever. But, your why is why you do what you do. Why do you have the job you have right now? You have a why. You may have to be paying the rent, you may be paying the car, whatever. We always have a why. We just need to have a look at, is Nutrimetics a vehicle that I can use for another why? So I wish you all the best. And if there's any questions, more than happy to speak to you all. So thank you.
Leanne, that was brilliant. Thank you so, so much. Absolutely
Thank
loved it. A
you.
few key points. Youngest of 8 children. Oh my goodness, your family would have been crazy. All very
Thank
well
you.
organized or both.
Well, actually, it's funny because we only had a 3-bedroom house and there were 6 girls in one room, mum and dad in the other, and the 2 boys in another. So when I had my children and they were like, boy and a girl, so they had a room themselves and they were like, oh, can I have a TV? Can I have this? And I was like, no. And then I'd go, when I was a kid, they were like, oh, yeah, I remember you had 6 of you in one room.
And probably one bathroom and one
Yes, one
toilet.
bathroom, one toilet. That's it. Yep,
Yep,
done.
yep,
My mum had a system, and if you
yep,
didn't strip your bed on a Wednesday and put
yep.
your sheets in the laundry, they didn't get washed till the next week.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love
And when it
this.
was dinner time, we all had our things we did. And if you didn't do it, people went hungry. So,
Yep. I think the more kids you have, the more you have to be organized. There's no
yeah,
doubt about that.
definitely.
I
Definitely.
love the fact that they were able to give you work experience as a hairdresser, so that's what you went for.
Yeah.
And really, it shaped a lot of your future by
Yeah.
falling in love with having your own business,
Yeah.
falling and having a mentor that showed you great things and also showed you what not to do. I
So
love
yeah,
the fact that he was a terrible hairdresser. That is
he
so
was.
hilarious.
He was the worst, and he used to love to have fun all the time. And I remember he said to one guy, one of the other male hairdressers, he said, "Oh, the next time two blokes come in, we'll have a race. See who can finish the haircut quicker."
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
And
what
he
you do
did.
as a great hairdresser.
He did this haircut. I remember watching it and thinking, "Oh my God." Now this was the 80s. So, it
Yeah,
was John Travolta hairdo,
it was.
like it was
Yeah.
big hair.
Yeah.
Big hair.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Love the fact that you stayed there for 7 years, and then you opened your own salon. Just fantastic. Married along the way, beautiful children along the way, and you wanted to be like your mum and wanted the kids to come home when you were there.
Yeah.
And so Nutrimetics offered that opportunity. How great
Yeah.
was that?
And
And
my daughter now has her way as well. And she is there for her kids as
mm,
well. Yeah.
isn't that wonderful? Just wonderful. She's beautiful, your daughter.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Um, I love the fact that you fell in love with the Inakari range. What a beautiful range of
Mhm.
skincare that is. And I've sort of asked for it back 100 times, but they
Yeah.
told me, Louise, that was last century. So perhaps it's not coming back. Um, and uh, being a mum, you wanted to be like that, the Inakari. You couldn't find anyone to purchase it from. That's such a great lesson
Yeah.
that if we don't ask everyone,
Yeah.
then they're going to find a different career or they're going to go to someone else. So
Yeah.
you just have to have the guts to ask. And
Yeah.
I feel that if you think of the other person and the opportunity for them, not thinking of yourself, but it's all about them, that it's very easy to ask and invite people to
Yeah.
have a get together. I believe that the single best thing, the best way to get your Nutrimetics is to have a workshop and be a
Yeah.
hostess.
Yeah.
That's my number one. That's the best thing. And
Yeah.
then the second best thing is to join.
Yep.
But my
Totally.
goal was always to book them first,
Yep.
and then I would join and sponsor my hostess.
Yep.
Because then by then they'd fallen in love with the products, and that's what you
Yeah.
want. So I love that. I also do believe, though, that you just ask everyone at whether it's a workshop, a masterclass, or whatever. We had a great example. This lovely lady came to a masterclass in my home. Adam was doing the workshop, and he always says, "What do you do in life?" I think it's such a open-ended question. Anyway, this lady said, "I have my own beauty salon at home." And at the end, he had a little chat. What do you supply products? What products are you using? Did you like the feel of the platinum? She said, I did like the feel. He said, what about putting this in your home salon and using these products? So she has placed a $3,000 order in the last 4 weeks.
Well done.
So
See, you got to ask.
you've got to ask, you've got to say, whether you say, what do you do in life? Or whether you say, are you working at the moment, home full time, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But maybe we all just try. Uh, I was joined by Terry Jones, and she used to say the most incredible things that I could never copy. But
Yeah.
eventually I just copied her because it worked. I think that's what you did with the gorgeous Jo White. Love
Yes.
Jo. She was just amazing. Um, I love your story about the bank manager. I love your question to your hubby. Will I make an appointment with the bank and get a loan for a car, or will I earn the car from Nutrimedics?
Yeah.
And he said what most husbands I have come across with, including my ex-husband, um, he would have said, "You're going to do what you want anyway, so just do what you want."
That's exactly what he said. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear. And I just love the fact that as women in Nutrimatics, we have such freedom. And I
Yeah.
remember so well the first time I rang a real estate agent, I said to Michael, I want to buy a different house. It was a new house that we were in. And he said, well, you go and you look around, find something. If there's something you like, just take me to the top one or two. So I rang the real estate agents, and not one of them would show me around houses without my husband being
Yeah.
there. And I just think that Nutrimetics is the most wonderful career for women because there is no glass ceiling,
Yeah.
there are no limits, and you can do it Leanne way, you can do it Joe White way, you can do it
That's right.
Louise Bugner way, you can do it Sonia way, you can do it Lee Aaron's way. And we all are very successful in
Yeah.
what we do, very successful. And all of us were very, very good at studying the people who were the best in the business.
Exactly. And if you're wanting to do something and you're not good, it's not something that you're confident with, find the person who's doing it and go and ask them how they're doing it.
Exactly, exactly. So I love it. You won't always feel like doing the work, do it anyway. Progress beats perfection, keeps motivation alive. Start moving, and the momentum starts. The number of people you get in front of will influence your sales, your sponsoring, and your development, which will ultimately impact your freedom money. And I love your term freedom money. Decide how much freedom money you want. And
Mm.
by putting it as freedom money, by putting that as an adjective before the noun, it totally describes why you're earning the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally describes it. It's not about the money, it's about what it will do for your life, for you, your family, for your kids. That's what
Exactly.
it's all about. How do you do all of this? Get organized, and the sweet spot is 15 hours a week. And whether you work up to that 15 hours or you start with the 15 hours, keep a time schedule on yourself and see how many hours you actually put in. I often say to my people that the results you are getting are directly influenced by the time you are putting in.
Yes.
And I know that one of the reasons I was more successful than some of my colleagues when I got started was I was willing to do more work.
Yeah.
It's a simple formula. I wasn't any smarter. I wasn't any
No.
better looking. I wasn't actually very well dressed at the time because I didn't have the money to be well dressed. But now I'm extremely motivated so I can go and buy clothes. So find out what puts a fire in your belly. And if I don't do the work, I can't buy the clothes or the shoes. Love your system of the average order. And with consultants, everyone, the average sales per consultant over a year will be $240 approximately. So the more people you have in your team, the more $240 there will be. And on average, your VIPs will order once every 3 months.
Correct.
So
Yep.
that work that out, and you will know how many people approximately will put in an order each month. And we were also talking. I was talking to a few people today, and they basically said I didn't have the opportunity to connect with lots of people in the month of January, and boy, did that show in my business.
Mm.
So it is the more connection. Mind you, she had a very good reason. So it is about all of that. Leanne, you've put a different thought, a different way of putting the same words into my brain, and I believe into the brain of everyone that listened to you today. I know Sonia and I have been chatting in the last week, and you would have had an influence on our gorgeous Sonia as well. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us. We do have a special guest speaker for the month of March. It's actually his birthday month, and he will do it just before we go away to Bintan Island. His name is Mr. Adam Buchner, and he will be 36 next month. So please join us next month. Please encourage your team to join us and hear from the most successful guy in our business at the moment. There have been well, Kevin Stanford always stands out for me. What an amazing guy
Mm.
he and a businessman he was. I actually think Adam is more of a businessman than Kevin was, but Kevin was the ultimate performer. So join me and have a listen to Adam Buchner as he talks about creating your bright future next month. And I'm wishing you all a bright future from Leanne and I for the month of February. Let's make it work. Let's earn every promotion that is on. That is the way you build a business,
Yep.
exactly as you said, Leanne. Go for all the freebies
Yep.
and your income will grow. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. And a big extra thank you to Leanne. Really,
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it, Leanne.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.